So, moving on with the discussion for today, which is about the the first noble truth that there is dukkha, there is suffering, and what is this suffering? And it is described uh, in very clear terms by the Buddha, where he said, "Birth is suffering when you are enclosed in that tiny space for a period of 9+ months. That is suffering." And it's very difficult for us to really imagine that, because fortunately the we don't have too many memories of that which are accessible to us. uh, but if you just compare with the situation during the pandemic related lockdown, how miserable many people were just because they were not allowed the freedom to come out of a specified place. It could be their apartment, their colony. They were not allowed to do that, and it made them so miserable. So imagine being curled up in that tiny space within the womb for more than 9 months. How much of suffering that would be. So the birth itself is suffering. Then, as we go on, we have vyadhi, various ailments, sicknesses, which we get afflicted with. Again, more suffering. And then, Zara, we uh, get old. Everybody would be aware how old age can be suffering. The people who reach an advanced stage in life and they're just waiting, they just pray to their God that please relieve me of this suffering. Please take me. Suffering. And the death, the end of this life, suffering. Because there is so much of attachment to this mind body continuum, which we call I, my, mine. When the time comes to leave it, then immense suffering. So, the first four aspects of suffering, then all that we desire does not happen. And when the unfolding is opposite of what we desire in the present, depending on how strongly attached we were with that uh, expected outcome, the suffering will be directly proportionate to that. The stronger our attachment to a specified desired outcome, the proportionate would be our suffering. It would be as intense as our craving for that outcome. So, all that we desire does not happen, more suffering. The people we want in our life, the people who are dear to us, they get parted from us, they get separated from us, more suffering. The people we do not want in our life, they become a part of our life. It could be at work, it could be a neighbor, it could be a family member, immediate family or extended family, somebody very unpleasant. And we wouldn't want that person to constantly keep on appearing in our life on a regular basis. But more and more, we have these people showing up. You might end up changing your workplace because you feel that your colleagues or your boss or your juniors are uh, very unpleasant people, very toxic workplace. Or uh, you're praying that may a specific person leave the organization and go away. And the person eventually leaves, maybe your prayers get answered. And the next person who comes might be worse. Similarly, it could be a neighbor who's really nasty, who's really always giving you a very bad time. And you are suffering because of that neighbor. And then you pray, if only this person would not be my neighbor, life would be so much better. And eventually your prayers get answered, and that neighbor leaves, sells, and moves on. And the next person who comes might be uh, worse than the earlier occupant of that house. So there's no guarantee that the people you don't want in their life, even if they go away, there won't be others who will then come into your life who will be any better. And this constantly keeps on happening. So the people who are dear to us, they are parted from us. The people who are not desirable in our life, they are constantly part of our life. And this mind body continuum, this four aggregates of the mind and the body, Buddha calls it the Panch Upadana Khanda, the five aggregates, Panch Upadan Khanda, five aggregates, four parts of the mind and the body. Everything associated with that, Dukkha. So this is described in detail, broken down into very simple words which anyone can understand, relate to in their life. And then the further uh, Buddha went with the other three noble truths, where he talked about the origin. How does the suffering originate? And then the third noble truth, that there is a cessation. The suffering comes to an end. And he didn't leave it at that. He didn't stop at that. If he would have stopped there, then people would have been justified. His critics would have been justified in calling him a pessimist, a nihilist, a nirashavadi, dukhvadi, because in trying to discredit him, they called him all kinds of names, that he was always talking about suffering, etc. But if he would have left it at the third noble truth, that would have been absolutely justified. But he went on and he described the path to come out of the suffering, how to lead, how to reach the cessation of the suffering right till the very end. And that's what he did for 45 years of his life, every day from morning till the time he went to sleep. That's all he did for 45 years. Explain to people the process of coming out of suffering. And he didn't set up any religion. In fact, the term Buddhist or Bodh came into existence approximately 500 odd years after Buddha had passed away, when the essence of his teaching was lost, only the words remained. People forgot the understanding of the teaching of this practice, and they just held on to the words. The rites, rituals started getting added to it, where there were none earlier. It's invariably what happens when people lose the essence of the teaching. They're clutching on to the peels of a fruit, and the fruit itself is kept aside. You have an orange, and you take off the peels of the orange, and the fruit reveals itself. But out of ignorance, people just hold on to the peels, and the fruit is kept aside. Nobody actually bothers to uh, taste the fruit. And that is the practice, that is the spirituality, which is the essence of every realized person's teaching. Anyone who's attained full realization, who's really a saint in the true sense, just talks about this pure spirituality and how one can follow a life of morality and come out of the suffering. People, after a while, or even at that time, are unable, many are unable to understand, and they just hold on to the words. And very soon, the words start getting interpreted in a few hundred years. They acquire a completely different interpretation, and people go far away from the essence of what the words originally carried. So, just to reiterate, the the suffering is there. There is a origin of the suffering, and there is a cessation of the suffering. Is it described threadbare? It's described in great detail, and the path which enables, the practice which enables anyone to come out of that suffering is also described in great detail. So I'll just pause for now. If anyone has any thoughts or questions related to this, please feel free to unmute yourself and share. Okay, so you can uh, just let that sink in. And if you would have any other question about it in the future, then any doubt about it, then please feel free to um, pick it up in any of the subsequent sessions, or you're most welcome to message me uh, on the side as well. So, wishing everyone more moments of awareness and equanimity, not only in a session like this, but in the ordinary moments of life that lie ahead today. Continue to put in the effort. Of course, it is true that this journey has to be effortless, but it becomes effortless after a while. But till then, you have to put in the diligent effort very, very patiently without setting any timelines as far as the outcomes are concerned. The immediate outcome is, if you're doing it with a proper understanding, you will get rewarded with that sense of peace and tranquility immediately without having to wait for another hour, another day, another year, or another lifetime. You will get rewarded immediately. That is the way nature works. And if you are aligning yourself with the laws of nature, then nature will reward you immediately. So do continue to put in that effort very patiently and diligently. Do also remember to practice the Mangal Maitri after the session concludes, and beyond that, also in the ordinary moments of life, without making it mechanical. It should not become like a mantra which you chant mechanically. The more it comes from the heart, the more you will experience the joy that practice can offer you. So, wishing everyone a meaningful day. See you again in the next session. Namaste.